Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show and welcome to Sleep In Saturday. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're listening to on Facebook for the first time, we do this every day, 7 days a week, Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. and every morning, Monday through Friday at 5 a.m. And you can join us live on Zoom every night. You just got to email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And you can join our massive Zoom community. And it's fun. We all know each other. We all look at each other. We all spy on each other. We all look at each other's houses and how we're decorating our houses. It's really sort of creepy in one sense. I know all about these people. But actually, you can listen to any place that you get podcasts as well. Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. And it's a show on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of yoga, culture, and philosophy, and how to apply yoga philosophy to your life. A lot of us grew up doing yoga, or we like yoga, or we're attracted to the principles of it. Sometimes we study it deeper. Sometimes we don't even want to be yoga teachers, and we do a yoga teacher training just to create some depth in our yogic experience. And you get a little glimpse of yoga philosophy, and we think, how nice. But the real way to apply yoga philosophy is to hear it on a regular basis and start to use it as a sounding board for how I live my life and what the yogis say. And we start to see, well, what can I apply to my life? And this is me and my good friend Kaustubha, my old friend. Not that you're old, but we're old friends. I guess we are pretty old at this point.
Getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. But my old friend Kaustubha, who we were monks together from our 20s, and then we became yoga teachers. This was randomly because I was living on the West Coast and you were on the East Coast. And we sort of reunited again after all those years. And now we do our podcast together. And we really just sort of tease out yoga philosophy, try to make it relevant and approachable. And today is questions and answers day. Tomorrow's special guest day. Our special guest tomorrow is Dunya. She's been on the show before. She's a family counselor and an incredible musician. And just a cool lady all around. And she does some counseling. And so we're going to have her on. We're talking about relationships and stuff like that. But today it's Q&A day. People send their questions in on their spiritual journey. If you have questions, you can email us. Again, same email, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. All I want to say is if you're writing questions, people, make sure they're questions. People write questions and they're like statements. Have you noticed that, Kaustubha? They're like, here's a question for you. And it's like, this is a statement. And then they're like, I guess this really wasn't. And they end with like, I guess this really wasn't a question. I just wanted to dump everything on you. I hope that's okay. But it's okay. We're here to dump on. How are you, Kaustubha? Everything good with you in your life?
Yeah, things are good.
All right, good. I'm trying to lean into this microphone. All right, so let's dive right in here. You're going to go first today, Kaustubha.
Meaning I'm going to answer first.
What's that?
Meaning I'm going to read or answer first?
No. I'm going to read to you.
Okay. What you got?
This is from Bailey Pittard. Is Bailey a boy or a girl? Bailey.
Bailey? I think
Doesn't
it.
matter.
I don't know. Mara, help us with this.
I don't know
Google
either.
it. Look it up.
I think it could
Get
be
it
either.
right. He
Okay.
slash she. All right. I was wondering if shifting through the different rasas or relationships with Krishna will lead you to a detriment of depth with Krishna. A detriment of depth. In the past, I have mostly engaged in master to servant. Although recently I have been finding friend to friend to be very nice and light. In each relationship, he, God, takes a different physical form in my mind. I know Krishna is absolute in all forms, but will switching relationships and forms affect my depth of relationship with Krishna? Sort of interesting, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a story. This is sort of a deep question, for someone who's like into the bhakti practice. They understand that Krishna is a name of God, and that this whole thing is, and God can have different. And the nuances of bhakti yoga is that you can have a different relationship with God. Is that going to screw it up for this person?
So yeah, we got to give a little background here. That there's different spiritual or religious traditions and that speak of God in different ways. And as we mentioned so many times on the show, what Srimad Bhagavatam presents as the culmination of all the Vedic literature of India, it presents that God could be understood in three facets. One of them is that God's non-personal energy that's spread, everywhere. God is everywhere. And another is that God is within the heart of every living being. So those are called Brahman and Paramatma. And then there's Bhagavan, which means the personal form of God. And what the Bhagavatam does is it through its 18,000 verses, it's explaining all three facets in depth. But in the 10th canto, which is really the culmination of the Bhagavatam and of all of Vedic literature, it's about Krishna's life. And it's about how one can associate with, serve, and love God in a very intimate way, in a very personal way. And so this question is in the context of this, that the great saints, right, these great philosophers and saints have written books analyzing these different relationships, analyzing the nuances of them. And that's the esoteric side of bhakti. And so what Bailey is asking about is there are five primary, they're called rasas, which basically what that means is that there's five different types of relationships. And of course, there's many nuances within those five, right? There's many varieties within them. But there are five general categories. One of them is the love that one had. There's a special flavor of the love that you have for someone who's like, again, for the Western mind, this sounds a little rough, but like servant to master, right? But like someone may have had a relationship with someone that's elderly to them that they really respect, right? Like a great teacher that you've had maybe or something like that. And when you feel like this person, in our relationship, that person's the superior, and and I see myself as gaining from them, right? And my relationship to them is like with respect and service, and their relationship to me is like kindness and compassion and care, like that, right? So that's a certain flavor in that type of love, right?
Like a martial arts teacher or a professor or a smart uncle.
Yeah. Right.
Smart uncle, as opposed to those dumb uncles.
And then there's the relationship of friendship, and friendship is very different, because in friendship there's not like, friendship is based on this equality, right? And it's far more intimate than that. And then there's the love of a parent for a child, which even it goes beyond that still. There's the, when you go from the first one, it's called Dasyuras, the servant. I'm your servant. Service is the primary quality in that. I want to please you. I want to serve you. That's how love is felt. And in friendship, that love is being felt. There's still that I want to serve you. I love you. I want to serve you. But there's also this feeling of equality. So it plays out in a very different context. And with the parent, it's almost like you need me, right? It's like
Right.
a certain type of love is felt when it's like you're dependent on me and I need to care for you. And then in the the most kind of intense rasa is that romantic love, right? Which, and it's described that as you go through them, the primary qualities of each one, as you build up, it's kind of like the last one includes them all. And as you go back and back and back, the first one is just, I want to serve you, I want to please you. But that idea of service is present in every one of those rasas. Okay. And that point's going to be important as we go forward. So Bailey's asking, so I like to think about these and meditate on these and try to feel them. And if I shift from one to the other, is that right? Or should I focus on one? Now, this is real important. Sometimes I joke around with Raghu on the show and I say, Raghu, your rasa is that of an elderly gopi, right? and the elderly gopi rasa is that paternal love, right? Even because it's like it's described like in Krishna's Leela, in his pastimes, like all the elders in the village, they have this paternal kind of love for Krishna, like just like a parent has for the child, right? And so I say, Raghu, I picture him as an elderly woman with that love for little baby Krishna, right? And but I'm joking when I say that. I want to be clear. I don't know what Raghunath's eternal rasa is in the spiritual world with Krishna. And this is the point. Unless you're very advanced in bhakti, you don't know, right? Unless you're very advanced. And there is, this is a side note. It's an important side note. It's not something that's particularly relevant to our practice, but it's something that can and should be understood. That within the bhakti lineages, there is an idea and there is a practice where a guru would tell a disciple, this is your role in the spiritual world, and here are the details of it, and I want you to sit and deeply meditate on that. And through that deep meditation, you will eventually realize that. It will, but that is a very, very, very esoteric practice. And unless one is a deep yogi already who's given up their attachments to the things of this world, that practice won't be effective for one. And so what we do is we focus on the service, that essential quality that's there in dasya rasa, right? I want to serve and I want to please you. You're superior to me, and I'm your servant. That is a quality that if we can really focus and develop that very deeply, that's what we're trying to do in the practice of bhakti. And the rest will be revealed. It will be revealed within the heart in due course of time, that if there's a specific way that you love Krishna. And so I thought I would read this. This is a commentary from the Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada writes this. It's a commentary from the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Adi Leela, which is the first section of that book, chapter 1, text number 35. And he writes, Srila Jiva Goswami, who's a very important writer on these kind of subjects, Srila Jiva Goswami, in his thesis, Bhakti Sandarbha, has stated that uncontaminated devotional service, pure devotional service, uncontaminated with any material attachments, is the objective of pure Vaishnavas, pure Bhakti yogis, and that one has to execute such service in the association of other devotees. By associating with devotees of Lord Krishna, one develops a sense of Krishna consciousness and thus becomes inclined towards the loving service of the Lord. This is the process of approaching the Supreme Lord by gradual appreciation in devotional service. If one desires unalloyed devotional service, one must associate with devotees of Sri Krishna, for by such association only can a conditioned soul achieve a taste for transcendental love and thus revive their eternal relationship with God in a specific, and this is the point, in a specific manifestation in the terms of a specific transcendental mellow. And then he says that one has eternally inherent within them. Okay, so the idea is it's not like we're just kind of like picking from like, well, hey, it's a smorgasbord and pick the one that you like or try them all. But there's something deep within you that will be revealed when you become purified of all of your material attachments and you begin to meditate and give your heart to Krishna. At the right time,
Mm.
that will become revealed. And we see that even play, we're about going into next week, we're going to start the 5th chapter of the 3rd canto. Things getting exciting for me, I'll tell you that. And
Watch out, Kaustubha's gonna get crazy.
no, because we're going to hear this fascinating, back and forth between Lord Brahma, that original living being in the universe, and Lord Vishnu. And Lord Brahma is going to kind of like lay his heart out to Lord Vishnu, like I got a responsibility on your behalf in the material world and it's hard and I'm not sure if I can do it. And then Lord Vishnu would say, no, 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 I got your back. You're going to do it. You're going to be great, and everything's going to be revealed to you. And so I wanted to read a little section from that too. These are verses, we'll read 27 through 33 from, I believe this is chapter 9 of the 3rd canto. So Lord Vishnu, he saw that Brahma was very anxious about the planning and construction of the different planetary systems and was depressed upon seeing the devastating water, because it's like this, there was water everywhere. He could understand the intention of Brahma, and thus he spoke in deep, thoughtful words, removing all the illusion that had arisen. This is great, right? Lord Vishnu is going to speaking in this deep voice with these thoughtful words, and he's going to wipe out all your illusion. Vishnu said to Brahma, "O depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious." Anybody out there depressed or anxious? Hear this message.
A little
Okay, Raghu, you gave me a nod there. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, depth of Vedic wisdom, be neither depressed nor anxious about the execution of creation. That was his service, right? What you're begging from me has already been granted before. Oh, Brahma. And now this is what we focus on, not necessarily what our specific rasa is, but this kind of thing. Oh, Brahma, situate yourself in penance and meditation and follow the principles of knowledge to receive my favor. By these actions, you will be able to understand everything from within your heart. O Brahma, when you are absorbed in devotional service in the course of your creative activities, you will, now this is great, you will see me in you and throughout the universe, and you will see that you yourself, the universe, and the living entities are all in me. You will see me in all living entities as well as all over the universe, just as fire is situated in wood. Only in that state of transcendental vision will you be able to be free from all kinds of illusion. Now, when we've achieved that, let's work on that. Right? Let's work on seeing God in the heart of every living being. Let's work on feeling God's presence at every moment. Let's work on feeling that I am always dependent and supported by God at every moment of my life. Become fully conscious of that. And then those more esoteric aspects of bhakti will be revealed within the heart. And then he says this, when you are free from the conception of the gross and subtle bodies, that I'm not this body, I'm not this mind. And when your senses are free from all influences of the modes of material nature, right? I've got control of my body, I've got control of my mind, I've got control of my senses. You will realize your pure form in my association. Right? You will realize whether you are a cowherd boy in the spiritual world. You will realize whether, like, I'm. It's just my speculation, but that Raghunath is an elderly gopi in the spiritual world. Could be.
Could be.
So he says, at that time you will be situated in pure consciousness. And so, in these verses, he uses this term bhakti yukta samahita in this verse where he says, when you're absorbed in my devotional service, bhakti yukta samahita. Yukta is that word that yoga comes from, to yoke, to bring things together, to connect, right? Like you connect to, like you've got oxen, you have a yoke, it connects the two. So bhakti yukta means when you're really connected, when you're reconnected, right? So bhakti mukta samahita, when you're connected with full, complete absorption. then you will see me and you and throughout the universe, and you will see that you yourself and the universe and living entities are all in me. So we work on that. And so when you said, I've mostly engaged in master to servant, well, that's where we need to engage, right? We need to really surrender our heart to the conception that eternally I'm the servant of God, that that my body, that my mind, that my words, that my actions, that my property, my possessions, my everything, my heart, that is yours, Krishna, and I engage it. I'm not engaged in separate activity. I'm always connected. That's where we focus our practice. And we read about the different rasas. We read the Nectar Devotion, which is going to more deeply inform us about how to understand those rasas. And we read the Krishna book where it's all laid out. And we appreciate them. And we bring our mind to them. And then in the course of time, when we're purified, then it will be revealed from within the heart, just like Lord Vishnu is promising to Brahma. All right, Raghu?
Very good. Very, very good.
All right. Very nice question,
Beautiful.
Bailey. Thank you for that. All right. I got a
Hit me.
question for you. This is coming from Ken Putnam, collector
Putnam.
of skulls.
Ken Putnam's collectors of skulls.
Right?
Yeah, we're skull collectors, me and he.
You guys got like a little thing there, right?
We got a little thing,
Okay.
skull collection thing going on.
Dear Mara, Raghunath and Kaustubha, my question has to do with surrendering to Krishna. That's what we're trying to do, right? So this is a good question. What does it mean? Right? That's actually, I was saying that, but that's exactly what it was. What does it mean? Yeah, what does it mean to surrender to Krishna? What does it mean? We talk about this all the time. I need you to explain it. It seems to me that we have our own free will to decide what we should do within our karmic limits.
Mm-hmm.
Are we co-creators with Krishna and Radha? How do we surrender authentically? How do you know if you're being inspired by Krishna or just the mind/ego? Please forgive me if my questions are simplistic or offensive. Thank you for allowing this old dented can into your party. Everything goes better with Krishna. My heart is bursting with Krishna's love and joy for you guys. Ken Putnam via email.
Great question, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the big question. How do you surrender to Krishna? Well, one thing is, it starts with what you're doing right now, Kent, is you have 24 hours in a day, and you're saying, for this particular hour, I'm going to give it to hearing the Bhagavatam or hearing the discussion on the Bhagavatam or discussions about truth. By the way, if you're new to this show and you're hearing surrender, what does surrender to Krishna mean? Krishna is just a way to say God. And so how do I approach God? How do I approach truth? How do I approach, authenticity? Meaning, how do I add divinity more to my life? We talk about Krishna a lot because Krishna is the main avatar we hear. But for those who are joining us and they're new to the show, I just want to clarify that. So how do you get deeper into your own spiritual path? Well, first of all, we sacrifice some time. I have 24 hours a day. And let's see, my phone can tell me how much I sacrificed just looking at my phone. It can tell me how much WhatsApp time I use or Instagram time I use. It can actually tell you that. Then you've got time where I spend eating, right? That's a time during the day. If there was like some type of metric or calculations, how much time, then there's some time to some sports and taking care of my body that I do. And then there's some time where I have to take care of my kids. Lately I've been just schlepping my kids all over town. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We picked up our kids last night from snowboarding. And my son was like, "What did you do today?" I was like, "I did my taxes all day." And I was like, "Oh, what did mom do?" "She drove you kids around all day." So sometimes we get stuck in, this is just what I'm doing. So the real question is how much time are we offering to connection, to divinity, inviting divinity into my life? And that's why we have things like a sadhana, a regular spiritual practice, which for some of you, listening to this show is listening to the Bhagavatam. That's part of your sadhana. Or reading for a half hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour. That's part of our sadhana. Japa. Now, some japa seems sort of foreign. It seems sort of like peculiar words. I don't understand the meaning of it. Incredibly powerful way to connect. using the Maha mantra on each bead, and doing 1 round of japa every day. 1 round of japa will change your life amazingly. And if you haven't tried, if you don't believe me, experiment with it. We don't ask you to accept anything on blind faith. Experiment with this stuff. That's part of a regular practice. And again, I always say this, you never figure out how things change you until you do them on a regular basis, right? Stop eating gluten on a regular basis and see if it affects you, right? Go vegetarian every day and see how it changes you. You know, work out, do yoga every day or many days a week and see how it changes you. You can't just get a gym membership and say, I go there a couple times, a month. It's not going to change you. Changing you means on a regular basis, I'm doing something. And in a spiritual analogy, a spiritual translation would be, that is my spirit, my sadhana, my dedication to a spiritual practice every day. So reading is a sacrifice of your time, or hearing. Chanting is a sacrifice of your time. Sometimes people have a little altar in their house and they're going to have to make food anyway. So what they do is, while they're cooking, they're thinking, I'm going to offer this. Before I eat this, I'm going to offer this. I'm making a salad. I'm making whatever, a baked potato. Before they do this, they actually have a little plate, and we should have a little workshop on this. You have a little plate, and you put that baked potato and some olive oil and some sea salt, and you put that on the plate, and you offer that. That act of working in the world. I'm working to feed my face, but in the same time, I'm also making a nice offering. So in one sense, I'm doing what I have to do, just like I had to pick up the kids yesterday from snowboarding, but I was listening to lectures the whole way. And so therefore I have to work in this world. And then I'm going to sneak in some, or double, multitask by listening to some transcendental lecture or pastimes or book or inspirational teacher like that. So some things I can just dedicate my time, like right now. A lot of you are just sitting there in lotus position, listening with your loved one or your cat, which also may be your loved one. Or some of you are like sort of multitasking, and I'm not holding against it. You're on your Peloton, or you're like doing push-ups, whatever. I think that's good too. I'd probably be doing that. Some people are, Greg DeGase, who is making whatever Chinese food there. So put on the hot sauce. But whatever it is we can hear while we're doing our thing, or we have time where we just sit and observe and go deeper into this. All of these things we should understand are surrendering to Krishna, because we are giving up one thing. One thing is I just usually cook for myself, or just go get those kids and do my work, or I have to go to work, or I have to, or I just wake up late and I don't, or I listen to some other podcast that tells me about, unsolved crime. So I can go to bed with nightmares, not trusting the world, or I listen to politics all day and I go down that rabbit hole. We're going to sacrifice that time that was usually engaged in service to the illusion, or I'm going to engage in service to reality. And therefore, eventually, Kent, and it's a great question, is because the real question is, how do I know if I'm not doing it for my mind or my ego? Like, okay, I want to surrender to Krishna. How do I know if it's just like, I just want to do what I want to do? That's a good question. And that will come. First, get focused on your own personal sadhana. Some chanting, some hearing every day. Some offering of food, some sitting, and some private reading. And then what'll happen is a community of Vaishnavas, of people practicing bhakti, will be entered into your life. And there'll be people within that community that you feel like, you know what? I trust the way she lives. I trust the way he lives. I trust their integrity. I'm going to ask them what they think about this. And you're going to get more specific, because our lives are specific. We're all pretty much the same in a lot of ways, but we have some details that make us very unique. How we work in the world, how we live in the world, our attachments, our aversions. So what's going to happen is you're going to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of offering to Krishna. What do you think about this? And then you're going to get some good advice. Hopefully you'll find people. Krishna will send you people that speak to you in your language. You know, there's people that will speak to you in the way you speak, and you'll be attracted to hearing from them. You're not going to get along with everybody, even everybody practicing bhakti. There'll be people specifically sent to you. It's amazing how Krishna works like that, to speak to you and tell you how you can go deeper into your practice. What do you think?
Mic drop. Boom.
Good night, everyone. And so as you go further, Krishna will take you further. Krishna, this whole Krishna thing is real. The whole thing's real, as sort of like out there as it sounds. It's actually real. Krishna is a real reciprocating person that knows exactly what you want. It's not just like a storybook of crazy mythological fantasies. It's real. Krishna is a real person. And he's blue. Okay. Thank you, Kent. By the way, I'm going away next week. You know that, Kaustubha. I just want to share that. Yeah, I'm going to be on the Rich Roll podcast, which is a great podcast. Cool. If anyone's ever heard of that.
Oh, that's why you're going out there.
I'm going there. I'm going to have dinner with Jay Shetty.
Where's
I'm excited
Rich Roll?
For that. Rich Roll is in LA, in Thousand Oaks. Somewhere
I don't
up
even
there.
know. That's like LA kind of.
It's like Northern Valley towards Calabasas. And
I don't know LA. I don't know anything about LA.
You don't know. Malibu, other side of Malibu Canyon.
All right.
So I'm going to go
all
do
these words mean nothing to me. It just sounds like the Saturday Night Live thing, you know?
I'm doing a workshop on 6 pillars at Yoga 108, a great yoga studio. A lot of people there listen to the show. Shout out to Yoga 108.
Yeah, that I know.
But I think that might be sold out. But if you're interested, there, check it out, because last time it was almost sold out. And I'm gonna visit my buddy Tukaram.
Tukes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, but the point is, I'm missing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Out. 5 days. That's insane. You can't do that.
I know. No one gets that type of. So that means I'm going to ask people to read the Bhagavatam on their own.
You know what? Maybe I'll do something special, because I've been thinking of.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Taking over.
You and Mara usurping the show from me. Yes.
No, you know, but
waiting patiently.
You know, because I've been thinking of You know, because I want to put a book together, but I think if I can get a really good recording, it could help put that all together. And so I was thinking of teaching 2 courses that I've taught before, 4 Paths of Yoga and the Purity of Our Spiritual Intention, and just do them in detail and answer questions.
You're the guy. I think you should do interview day next week without me.
I wouldn't do that, Raghunath.
No, I'm serious. It's because the shows must go on.
Interview day, you're saying?
Yeah, do interview day. Have someone come on Sunday. We'll get somebody good.
Maybe that, or maybe I'll teach a couple courses over the course of those days, and then I can get the recording of that, and then we can send it off to Mandala people or something like that to edit or something like that. I'm thinking of that. But we'll work on it. We'll come back to you with some info about that.
All right, great.
All right. You got a question from me? 5 days. What are you thinking, Raghu? That's crazy.
You know what? It was going to be longer, but I'm meeting with the publisher also, because I'm working on my memoir book.
But you can't get it together because you don't want to wake up early. That's what it is. Truth is coming.
No, Baba. But it's 2 a.m. on Friday.
That's what I'm saying.
You want me to wake? That's not waking up. That's going to bed late.
Okay.
And then Saturday I can't, because I'm going to meet with the publisher and I have to fly to Northern California.
Okay.
And then Sunday I'm gonna fly back down.
You're just gonna be rubbing elbows with Jay Shetty over there with Tukes, with Rich Roll. Okay, we get it. We're not so special anymore.
We're going to Crossroads. We should get Tal from Crossroads on the show. Crossroads is an incredible vegan restaurant in LA that everybody goes to. Paul McCartney was there last time I went.
All right.
We should get Paul McCartney on the show.
Mara, get Paul McCartney for the show, please.
I'll work on that.
Tal's an old straight edge guy.
Okay.
He has a great cookbook out too.
And he's got a great cookbook.
What about Mara's cookbook? That's what I'm waiting for.
We're waiting for Mara's
sushi.
cookbook.
I want to give my wife that sushi recipe.
All right.
Maybe could you just send me the sushi recipe?
Sure.
All right.
Bhakti Matthew says the Kaustubha spin-off show. It's like what Laverne and Shirley was to Happy Days. That's what's going on here.
But Laverne and Shirley was never happy.
It's the Mara and Kaustubha show. It's called The Real Wisdom.
So I'm speaking with Mara today.
All right, let's get on with this. Yeah. Kaustubha, I hope this finds everyone in good health. I have a question about praying.
Who's
to
this
the
coming
Acharya.
from? Who's this coming from?
This is
Slow down.
coming from Sarah Grambush
Okay.
via email. This is a good question here.
Mhm.
I hope this email finds everyone in good health. I have a question about praying to the Acharyas. So Acharyas are previous masters, basically.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be previous, but I think in the context that she's saying, right, the previous acharyas she's talking about.
I guess there can be present acharyas.
Yeah.
And we know, and usually it usually means someone who's done massive amounts of service, but it can also mean a head of a particular spiritual institution. You know, in India, it's a little bit different. You know, in the West, we got like this big Roman Catholic Church or the Mormon Church, and you have the Pope, or I don't know who's in charge of the Mormons, but
they got their acharyas, I'm sure.
in India, they have like a head of a ashram, and the ashram could have maybe 2 ashrams only, and that's the acharya. But there also is the concept of a very big person who revolutionized the spiritual world, and you hear of Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya. These guys are like big
Ramanujacharya.
big historic personalities. So
it
there's an
literally
idea
just means someone who teaches by their example. But as you're saying, you know, it's used in the context of here. I think especially like great teachers of the past, right?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
So why don't we start over again?
So do we want to pray? As like, I guess it's like the Christians pray to the saints. Okay, we know how.
I have a question about praying to the acharyas.
I have a question about praying to the acharyas. We know how Krishna is able to be fully present with everyone, and thus can hear our prayers, engage with us, and reestablish our relationship. We know where he is and what he's doing. With the other avatars, we know they also eternally exist in their abodes, and that one can engage with them and even be with them in the spiritual world if one desires. I would think that praying to Lord Chaitanya and Radha, who are none different from Krishna, is funneled through the complexity of the supersoul somehow. Even if we want to engage with the demigods, we can understand how that's happening. With regard to the acharyas, I understand there is an eternal connection through Vani. Vani means to render service to their message.
Yeah, instruction.
Right?
Through their instructions. Yeah.
And that we can feel their presence in that way. I sometimes feel like I want to talk to our Prabhupada about something, or sometimes Prabhupada's guru, Bhakti Siddhanta, about something else. These feel like real and unique relationships. I'm wondering, what is happening there? How can I conceptualize this? As always, I'm in your debt for this wonderful service, which has completely transformed my life. Sarah Grambush via email. That was a very beautiful question. These people are getting very, very deep in their spiritual life.
It's true. Okay, so Sarah, let's talk about this. You know, our limitations predominate our experience within this material world, right? We're always bumping up against a boundary of what we wish we could do, but we can't do. Right? We're limited. And so we become conditioned to that limitation. And we think that anything's beyond those limitations that we are currently limited by, right? We think that anything beyond them is like fantasy. Like we become conditioned to think that way. But there's really no logical basis for that. There's really no empiric evidence for that. That's an assumption. And if one can kind of like step back and really look at their life, doesn't it make sense that, isn't it proven to us all the time that there is that which is beyond our limitation? Now, science will try to break down those barriers, right? And they do it in amazing ways. So things that seemed impossible one day, at another time, we see that they're possible. Right? I always use the example of the iPhone, which I think for our age is the perfect example.
Unbelievable, really, if you actually think about it.
It's unbelievable. It's basically, you know, if we heard, even in our lifetime, right? Like when we were kids, there were fairy tales about like, what is it? Who has the looking glass? Is it Alice in Wonderland or something like that?
Yeah, a looking
glass, right? And that looking glass was like a mirror that you could look into. It was like a piece of glass that you could look into and talk to someone that was somewhere very far away, right?
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Kaustubha, when I went to 1 year of college, and there was a printer room where the massive, like 30-foot printer was, where all the computers were connected to this printer. It was like, and that's how they printed things. Now you can print from your phone wireless. What do they do with those old printers? Just junk them? That must have been like a huge investment for the university.
They junk them.
They junk them. So
And
we've
so,
come a long way.
Now you got this little piece of glass, and you can look in it, and it's like a looking glass. You can talk to someone that's on the other side of the earth.
FaceTime.
So, that seemed impossible, but it was shown that limitation is just a temporary limitation. That people can't communicate with others in other places. So science will break that down. Now yogis, they can even break boundaries in ways that the scientists can't too. Right? Yogis
Levitation.
Can read your mind.
Levitation, mind reading.
Yeah, well, levitation that the scientists have worked on, it's just cruder, right?
You ever
like
FaceTime somebody by mistake? Just like, oh my God, you're trying to like turn it off quick. Oh no.
Okay, Raghu. I'm trying to stay focused on this question right now, if you don't mind. Okay. Science breaks down these boundaries, but they do it in generally crude ways. Like Srila Prabhupada would talk about airplanes, and for airplanes, like Prabhupada's just like, oh, they're so like they're loud, and they're helicopter that can levitate, but it's totally loud and burns this petroleum
diesel.
And fuel, and whereas a yogi can just levitate. Right, a yogi can read your mind. Scientists haven't figured out how to do that.
It's coming.
Right? You think so?
Well, they've got the algorithms now that read my mind.
And so yogis can break them down more. But ultimately, when you get to the realm of Krishna, for Krishna, there are no boundaries. Right, zero boundaries. He's the Yogeshvara. He's like the ultimate yogi, and when you talk about acharyas, or really what the acharya is a guru, right? There's a principle of guru, and that means that channel of spiritual knowledge, that channel of transcendental knowledge and realization, that is guru, right? And so wherever we find genuine transcendental knowledge and realization, that is guru. So like we have this great chapter in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam where one Avaduta Brahmana, right, one really far out spiritual person, a king is saying to him, you are so spiritual, you are so deeply absorbed in spiritual, you are so otherworldly, how did you get there? And he said, well, I had 24 different gurus. And he begins to name all the different gurus. And some of them are like people, and some of them are like animals, and some of them are just like, inanimate objects. But he gained genuine spiritual knowledge through each one. And these acharyas are very powerful channels of transcendental knowledge, right? And as Sarah's pointing out, sometimes I feel, I forget how she phrased it here, but she said these feels like unique relationships. Sometimes I want to talk to Prabhupada about something, and I want to talk to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about something else, right? Because there's a unique personal relationship. And, you look at the personality of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, another, same love for Krishna, same depth of realization, but another person in their unique way of expressing it.
I mean,
right?
Bhaktisiddhanta was a lifelong celibate. Mm-hmm. He was a child prodigy at age 4. He mastered the Bhagavad Gita. He spoke multiple languages. He speaks English better than we speak English. Yeah. He met with all the heads of state of India. He had like
spent
thousands
9 years living in a hut chanting a million names, like, or so many millions of names.
And then his father is like this very gregarious, extroverted, but deeply internal person. He's a high court judge in Calcutta. He was,
10 children or so, something like that.
Yeah, 10 children, but spiritually focused. Yeah, completely different people, but
yeah, songwriter.
Incredible song. All our best songs are written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Yeah, book writer. I mean, they both wrote books, but they're different, and they have their unique moods, and so at a particular point in your life, or if you're dealing with a particular issue, or if you're feeling a particular type of inspiration, you may feel called to pray to that person. And so the question is, do they hear me? You know?
Yeah. Do they hear you? Do you
'Cause
pray to?
it's-
Do you pray to great personalities?
Of
Kaustubha?
course, daily. We do it every morning on the show, Baba. Narayanam Namaskritya.
No, I know, but
Naram Chaiva.
outside the official prayers, do you go like, oh, Srinivasacharya? Oh,
Yeah, I do, especially to my guru, and to Prabhupada, and to the Goswamis, and yeah, I do. I
Okay.
do. And so again, the question is, do they hear me, or am I just, maybe it's a mental game, a mental yogic exercise that I'm performing. Maybe it's even good for me, but do they actually hear me?
Yeah.
Right.
What's your answer?
Well, the idea is that, again, for Krishna, for Yogeshwar, there's no limitation, and that Yogeshwar is that principle of guru is which is non-different from Krishna, right? It's there to facilitate our growth when we want it, when we really want it.
Mm,
It caters to that genuine spiritual desire. Krishna caters to that genuine spiritual desire through guru, and there are no limitations, right? And again, that seems, let's just try to take our mind and say, like, for instance, I've met people that can read minds, and when you hear them speak about it, the way that they say it is, yeah, the information is just all right there. Right? It's all just floating around. You see, because like for someone that knows about radio waves, they're like, yeah, it's just floating through the air, and they know how to access it.
right.
But again, before the invention of radio, if someone would have told us that, we would have been saying, well, come on, man, stop with
Right.
this fantasy mythology kind of thing. But for someone that knows it, for someone that understands how communication can take place without the material, relatively crude material facilities that we've created, it all seems like fantasy, but we should understand that for other people, this is no problem at all. And if Krishna wants to facilitate, Krishna's eager, like Prabhupada would say, if we take one step towards him, he'll take 10 steps towards us. He's eager for that. And he's saying that it's even, Krishna says himself, the acharya is non-different from my very self, right? One should not see the acharya as different from me. Krishna's working through the acharya. Krishna is, that is his conduit. That is his channel. Krishna takes joy in the acharya, in his devotee, representing him. And by representing, I mean exactly that, representing, right?
Ooh,
Krishna's
like that.
energy through that person. So there's no, if we want that, Krishna can easily arrange for that acharya to hear. And that part, we see in Bhagavatam that Vyasadeva, this is in the first canto, he's feeling despondent. He's trying to understand, what have I done wrong here? Like I've written all the Vedas, I've tried to serve and live a pure life and do all that I can to serve humanity, serve God, and I'm still something feels not right. And then at that moment, as he's contemplating this, his guru appears to him out of nowhere, right? Brahma comes. Narada comes to him and answers his question and speaks what he needs to hear. When one sincerely desires God, when one sincerely desires, and God even appreciates it more when you want to do it through his devotee, there's no limitation, right? Krishna's in the heart of every living being, and he connects everything. He's just it's like a big switchboard, right? Paramatma. And Krishna could just say, okay, plug in Sarah to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, just like an operator, and could tie everything together. So, yes, Sarah, have faith.
It works.
There are no boundaries. And as we become deeper and deeper, more and more sensitive, we'll more and more deeply feel the presence of these great souls in our lives. And we'll know, no matter what anyone tells us, we'll know, I'm feeling it. It's real, it's genuine, it's transformative, it's changing my life. All right?
Ooh. Well, guess what?
Well, we're out of time. Oh, God. Just getting started here. All right.
We'll have a question marathon one day.
All right.
and serve food.
Maybe we'll do that when you're in California. We'll just do a
Wisdom
marathon.
of the Sages. What?
Just kidding.
Wisdom of the Sages retreat. We'll do it.
All right.
Get some vegan meatball subs.
So we got Dunya tomorrow.
Done you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Sleeping Sunday. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And let's all marathon it this week. Make sure we don't miss an episode. Tell your friends, because I'm going on vacation.
That's what it is. You're just
Thanks,
going on a
everybody, for
vacation.
joining us. Facebook people, join us. And if you like what we're doing, support us through our Patreon account. It's patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. We're community supported. So we depend on you, and we're grateful. We depend on Krishna and through the devotees. But it's our great pleasure to do this service, and we love it, and we love you. If you like if you're on a spiritual journey and you haven't shared with us, let the community get to know you. Go to Apple Podcasts and write your story, how you got here, what you think of the show. Write a review. It's super simple. You can do it right on your iPhone. Go to Apple Podcasts right now. Wisdom of Sages. Give us 5-star. It helps our rankings in the podcast community. And also, if you're on YouTube and you watch us at YouTube, comment on YouTube and follow us on YouTube. It makes a big difference. We also have this wonderful Bhakti recovery group. If you're a fan of recovery programs, very, very powerful in spiritual evolution. When's our next one, Mare?
Today at 9:30.
Today at 9:30. There you
That's
go.
like real soon.
So those are for our Patreon members. You get on there. Thanks, everybody. Now we dance. This may sound crazy if you're new to the show. We dance. We dance around a computer screen. This is part of our spiritual practice.